Hey, I finally finished redoing this horn gluing jig that I have. This is a jig that I use to glue the horn onto the bottom of the club. Sometimes the horn needs to bend and I need to put a lot of pressure on it, so it's a vise that holds the club head in place, and it has these threaded screws here that hold the horn in place while I'm gluing. So I needed to redo these threaded screws. So that got me thinking about all the various ways that you can make dowels to make these threaded screws. So let me first talk about the final thing. Final thing is you want to use a screw box here with a tap to make the threaded screws. But you need a dowel first, and you need a dowel of a specific diameter. These were initially made of poplar, and they didn't hold up, so that's why I redid them. So these are made of hickory now. Hopefully those will hold up better. They look pretty crisp. And this one, this larger one in the back, is also hickory. This is a 5/8 inch diameter, so 5/8 and a 1/2 inch. So I used two different methods to make these dowels, and there are many different ways available that you can make dowels with. One way, which I did not do, and this is actually not really a true jig for it, but you could drill a hole in a piece of wood and shave off the upper part of it. I don't really have, this isn't exactly, the wood would be a little higher and more of a hole, but you can put a chisel on there and just clamp a chisel and take a drill and run your square stock through and get the diameter that you want. Of course, you can use a router. That makes dowels as well. I've shown you this before, the Stanley 77 Dowel Maker. That's a hand crank device, kind of like when you were a kid, if you had a Play-Doh set where you put the Play-Doh in and it comes out in a different shape. But the way I made the 1/2 inch pegs was by using a doweling plate here. Pretty primitive. Just take a split piece of hickory in a square billet, and then you sequentially go down into smaller and smaller diameter holes, and you'll see the shavings. Here's that hole already. We'll go to the next one. You can start to see the shavings come up here. So that's how I made the 1/2 inch diameter holes or pegs, and then I just used the screw box and threaded that. For the larger diameter screw, I needed 5/8 inch diameter. So how did I get 5/8? Well, one way is to use the doweling machine, and that's actually what I did for this. I started with the doweling machine, used a 5/8 inch cutter, and then I noticed when I made the screw, it was a little too tight. So I went back and I redid it and used this thing called a stale engine. And what I did was I got it slightly less than 5/8 of an inch. Let me get this a little closer so you can see. So this is called a stale engine, and it's adjustable. I'm maxed out right now on the diameter, but you'll probably see the shavings come through. Let's see if that's showing up on the camera. I think so. So you can see the shavings here, and what this is a device that has a wider hole on one side. There's a knife in the beginning that's set slightly deeper than the blade initially, but this blade is skewed slightly. Probably can't notice it here, but it's slightly skewed. So when you get in, maybe a 1/4 inch or so, the blade is deeper than the scoring knife. The scoring knife, you might be able to see here, scores the wood, and it prevents the wood from splintering as you're rotating this. Otherwise you get a big mess. So this is called a stale engine. Other names are for the same thing are a widget. Some people call it a adjustable rounder plane. I've also heard widget in addition to witchet. A stale is just the, I think, archaic term in Britain for a handle, like a rake handle. And if you notice a rake handle, sometimes it's wider on the top part and then it tapers down a little bit. You could certainly use a stale engine for that whole thing. So you don't need a dowel maker, this fancy 77 dowel maker. You can have either a fancy stale engine like this, or you can make your own. And this was kind of inspired by Roy Underhill's episode on the Woodwright Shop. He has an episode on how to make your own stale engine. So this one I hope works still. Let's see if this works. I think it's already narrowed down. We have to get down further. Here we go. There we go. So this one's a little rougher than the other one. It doesn't, and also doesn't have a scoring mechanism. So that's that. There's also this tool. This is called simply a rounder plane. It only cuts one diameter. So your square stock or semi-square stock goes in through here. Usually you get a square stock and you shave off the corners with a hand plane, and you stick it through here, and then you rotate around and you'll get a fixed diameter. This one you can't adjust to any diameter except for the 3/4 of an inch. So that's the fixed rounder plane. And then we talked about trapping planes before. You can see several of my posts. We have the various trapping planes, which I love this tool, my favorite tool here. And I think that's basically it. So what do you do with all of these? It's great to have these because you can make various other jigs. I have this thing called a miter jack, which makes 45-degree angles. You can read about miter jacks online. I won't go into all of that, but I made a jig for that with a threaded screw. So in summary, if you have just a screw box and a tap, and you have a stale engine, you can make quite a number of jigs. In fact, I made the jig last time with the drill on it for the trapping plane. I had threaded rods for that. You'll be surprised how many different woodworking jigs you can make. Take care.